Hey guys, and welcome back to our Star Wars Resistance. Blah, 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 me.
Cold open.
That's a cold open.
Yeah.
Hi everyone, and welcome to our Resistance review show. Viva la Resistance here on Dedicated to Art. For this week, I'm your host, Kees Cornelissen. Nico isn't here. He's in Orlando, recovering from Orlando. Chris is here to review the episode with me. And we're talking about episode 3 of season 2, Life Fire. Chris, what were your thoughts on this episode?
I did like it. It was a nice little bit of parallel storytelling, just to sort of set up to where we're probably going to be heading. Now, if you put a gun to my head and ask me, was this episode filler? One can make the argument. However, it's not necessarily filler if we're learning more about the characters. And that's where I think what made up for that. And we'll get to that more in a bit.
No, that's definitely true. Like I felt this was filler in terms of we're not continuing the story, but we are going more into character stuff with the aces, with Cass, and I was fine with this episode. I didn't. This was probably one of the weaker ones they've done. That's mostly because I like the other one so much. But yeah, this is definitely a more relaxed, laid back episode. Like, okay, let's just um, as you said, the parallel storytelling. Because, well, we begin the episode seeing the Aces. After the last episode, they kind of took a beating. They first encountered the First Order in space, and they realized, yeah, they're good racists, but not the best fighters. So those appoints Yeager as their new leader. Because Yeager knows a thing or two about combat piloting, and Cass actually knows a thing or two. That's why Cass also becomes one of them. And while they are training in the Resistance, Tam and Jace and her group, they go to train for the First Order. And as you say, parallel storytelling. That those are the two storylines in this episode. Tam training with her group, and Cass training with his new group. Um, so yeah, what did you think about like the start when we get the setup?
I quite enjoyed it because, look, what's the one thing that I've always praised about this show? Flight. My
Yes.
God, Justin Ridge and the crew make Flight just look so beautiful in this show. And the fact that we got an episode of pretty much all Flight, plus in my book, especially during that first little training scene of where it's just the Aces versus Kaz and Yeager. And oh my God, they get smoked, and it's perfect because like and one of the beautiful things about this episode, I especially found right away, on the scale of annoyance, I was at peak annoyance from hype.
Yeah.
But through all the Flight stuff that happens throughout this episode, we come to like him. But we come to like him a little bit better than we had been. But starting it off though, I loved how his ego made everyone get ambushed, in that first little flight segment, which, again, animated just gorgeously.
Yeah, yeah. It is very clear from the beginning that Hype is the one with the biggest ego and extremely selfish, and that's essentially the lesson they should learn. And I do think that's like a good lesson for kids to sometimes learn to rely on a team. Not always. Like when it comes to racing, yes, you need to be first. No one else matters at that point, even if they're your friends. But if it comes to combat, in this case, yeah, they're learning. They need to form a team. They need to do things together. And Hype just is not having it. And that's something that the First Order, on the other hand, apparently doesn't really appreciate. The First Order teaches Tam that she's actually making a mistake when saving Jace, because they go out. They have some target practice. Tam takes out two. There's one left, but Jace gets hit, and he is like not able to steer anymore. And Tam is like, "I'll save him." And that's because her ideology is still like that. And despite the fact that we don't like Jace, um, she still did that because from the bottom of her heart, she feels she has to do that for people. And that's why, well, I also don't think she'll stick around with the First Order for very long, especially after the speech that she gets at the end, where she doesn't get promoted to leader, even though she did a lot of good things, at least in her mind. Um, so what's your take on Tam in this episode? Because you just before we started rolling, you had some words about that.
Okay. So I I'm not gonna sugarcoat it here. I want her to go full evil. I want her to go full heel. And we're
Okay.
still playing with the whole, oh, she's confused. She doesn't know what to feel. She still has bits of good Tam in her. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but I don't want that. She made
Hmm.
her choice. It's too late.
You just want her to fully commit
Hmm.
to this. Yeah, that makes
And and but that said, I am glad that we are sort of getting this angle of the First Order. That we're using Tam making a good decision to show how truly barbaric the First Order is.
yeah,
You know, because of course their ideology is very based on the Sith, and that it's survival of the fittest. If you are showing a form of weakness, you're dead. And
yeah.
for all intents and purposes, Jace should have died. And we would have certainly liked that here at Dedicated Art, but even though all love to Elijah Wood, uh, but
Well, part of me just wants Elijah Wood to, be longer in this show,
right,
despite the character not being all we want him to be.
yeah. But the thing is, I, oh, I can't hear her decision too much because at least they're committing to the idea of showing that there is still good in Tam.
Well, that's where she comes from, and that's what I just think. What is very clear at the end of the last season is she didn't necessarily join the First Order because she thought that well because the people that she was with were bad and the First Order was good. No, we know as the audience that the people that she was with had better intentions than they showed to her. She only saw it from her perspective, and her perspective made them out to be worse than they actually were, and made the First Order look a lot better than they actually are. And that's where she made that decision at a moment that like tensions were running high, and it was either join the First Order or be killed. And yeah, you don't want to be killed, so she made that decision. But you are seeing that she is still transitioning into that, and I hope that this is just a transition period for her when she learns essentially learns how the world works, the universe, how the First Order works, and she's like, okay, they might not have the best ideology at times, but at least this is better than the resistance because this and that. I'm with you on like I would want her to go full evil and commit to that, but she needs to learn because she's like, yeah, that takes time for her.
Yeah,
So it makes sense. Yeah, and in the meantime, Kaz and Yeager just make fun of the aces. Like, guys, do you even know how to fly besides racing? Apparently, you don't.
no,
Um, and then Yeager makes the decision to pair up Hype and Kaz, like the polar opposites. But sometimes that works because yes, initially Kaz and Hype are like, "What?" But it works out. Hype actually decide in the battle between between the Aces and the giant monster who has Yeager. Hype makes a smart decision, decides to work together. He figures out a plan where they all need to work together. They take down an ice pillar. to take or temporarily make the creature let go of Yeager so Yeager can get out of there. And yeah, we haven't really seen a whole lot of hype in terms of character development. We've always seen him as the character, how he started this episode being very selfish, all about himself, like he's the best and no one else matters. What do you think about hype about in this episode?
So on the one hand, he drove me up the freaking wall.
Especially at the beginning.
Especially at the beginning. And look, and credit to Donald Faison, his voice actor, who really sells it. Like,
Yeah.
like that's one of the great things about him as an actor. Period, is that he's always able to sell his characters, even if they are the most annoying person in the room. But for a character like Hype, you need that. You need someone who can sell that, and he does so greatly, in my opinion. And yeah, it was kind of cool to see him go through that arc of just being the jerk, thinking that he's right, but it's Tora who kind of slaps him into reality. And then, when he finally does try to commit, he shows his worth. And, it was a little weird to see him pair up with Kaz, but I'm like, but he already has a rapport with everyone else. So let's have the two who are butting heads the most, overcome their crap. So that way, in future episodes, we know that everyone can trust each other.
Yeah.
And side note, I'm about to go on a stupid 2-second side tangent here. So the creature.
Second.
Yeah, shush. But so the creature. I got nothing but Doctor Who vibes from that design, because there's an episode during David Tennant's run where he's on this like desert planet and they come across these like stingray shark things that essentially eat random bits of mass, and it literally the way that the mouth was like underneath it and it had that sort of silvery top. Again, very similar design. I'm not saying they ripped them off or anything, but if that
No,
was intentional, then that's a fun callback.
no, those are the type of things that this show does apparently, because already in the first episode of the season we saw some more alien references, and the show also Star Trek,
Yeah.
like yeah, the show uses other sci-fi movies and properties, franchises to influence their designs and things, and I think that's only for the better, because those kind of callbacks are nice for people who love sci-fi like us. And you you say something about the design of the thing. Yeah, it's essentially like a manta ray or a stingray that we have in real life, but just a little bit different.
And also
And
stupidly huge.
that's where Doctor Who probably got it from. I was honestly thinking a little bit about a facehugger, but then again, I was watching the Alien movies this weekend, so that's maybe why I thought of that.
You're not entirely off. Like if it had more like side appendages, then yeah, I can see that.
Because also the mouth underneath.
Yeah, that too.
But hey, I've been watching the Alien movies this weekend, so maybe that's also why. Other than that, I don't really have much other thoughts. I thought it was a decent episode, nothing too great about it, but nice in terms of some character moments and, as you said, parallel storytelling. Do you
Yeah.
have final thoughts?
I am a little bit bummed that we had another breather episode this quickly into season 2. But that said, I don't think they would do this unless the next episode's going to start getting a little heavy. And
Yeah.
I think, like, just to play a little prediction for a moment, I think that's what they're trying to set us up for. That the next couple episodes, we're gonna get back into the swing of things. We're gonna get nice and heavy with the action. And I don't know, man. I think someone's gonna bite it. Because why would they get that? And I'm serious when I say this. Why would they actually have the aces all come together if somebody wasn't gonna bite it?
Yeah, you might be on something there, because yeah, this is definitely a setup episode for later, because what do they set up? The aces being fighter pilots rather than racers. Um, and they like it's all together, one happy family, and like for one last time before something happens in potentially the next episode, or maybe just later in the season, because it makes sense that you would train the aces for combat because that's definitely something they don't do that often. And when they used to do it back on the planet when they that they were on the Colossus, they usually didn't have to do that much effort because the pirate attacks were very minor. But now they're learning about the First Order and they come in with full on Star Destroyers, and that's a whole lot more difficult than they faced. And suddenly they need to be better. So that's why they did this episode to train them, to make them learn, um, and then to have that come back hopefully in the next episode. I would love for them to have a good fight, and then yeah, one of them having to fight it, unfortunately.
Oh, actually, you know what? Okay, I don't want to do this, but at the same time, I really want to do this. If you could choose who bites it, who do you pick?
Well, uh, if I could choose one of the lesser known out of the crew.
Okay.
So like Hype and Tora are pretty much safe, I feel. Um, who are the? I
So
just
then
don't
there's
really.
Griff Halloran, the TIE fighter pilot. There's,
Yeah.
I believe, Alana is her name. Aunt Vesuvia. I know you're the comments correcting me. And then there's Bo. Um,
Okay, I'll go with Griff then.
ooh, okay. Go with the other Imperial on the Colossus. Interesting. Believe it or not, now obviously I'm not gonna say Tora because I will never put another hole in my ship ever
No,
again.
not ever, of course. She's safe.
But I think it's hype.
That would be big. That would be very big.
Yeah.
But mm,
And then
I, I'm not sure about that one.
and the only reason I say that is just because now that he's kind of had his big arc episode,
Yeah.
I don't know what else there is for him to do.
Uh, show off that he's a great pilot. We haven't seen that much of him, to be fair.
Fair. But yeah,
I would say in the next, like, if he bites it in the next episode, then we need to have a cool battle where he makes an amazing move, and with that amazing move, that kills him.
there
Maybe.
we go.
Uh, we'll see.
We'll see.
We'll just have to wait and see. And I think that's really all we have to say. Yeah, this is a little bit of a shorter one. We have a panelist less, so less to talk about in that regard. And yeah, just not that much happened in the episode. So, guys, please let us know what you thought about the episode in the comments below. Do you agree with us on the filler, or did you love it? And are there things that we may be missing? Let us know in the comments below. Of course, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and Chris, plug yourself.
Of course. And guys, let us know who you think is going to bite it. So you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Stardust, Letterboxd, and Discord at Skywalker Doman. You guys can follow this very channel on Twitter and Instagram at D2A Channel. Please like our Facebook page. Join our Facebook group to stay tuned for all of our big announcements coming, which there are actually some big announcements coming. Probably around the end of the month. Stay tuned for that. But then also, go check out our most recent episode of the Who Cares Anime podcast, where Nico and I sat down with a buddy of his from the Joy Travolta film camp. And this Friday, we're in for a fun one, because Disney remakes are all the rage right now, right? Oh, yeah.
Are they? Do we have to? Yes, we have to.
Yes, we do.
Maleficent 2 is coming out. Yeah, guys, actually, you are watching Resistance. So I cannot imagine that you haven't watched Rebels. And if you like Rebels, I am having a Full Metal random match about Star Wars Rebels this Wednesday, actually, over at Full Metal Media, against, well, Nico from usually the show, and Jay Burns, who apparently also likes the show a lot. And I mean, who doesn't? I mean, Rebels is awesome. And because of the fact that I, have all the Blu-rays and I've seen it a lot, I think I know a thing or two. So I'm gonna try and show how good I am with trivia in terms of that. We'll see how it goes. I've only finished season 2, so I might not be able to finish the entire show before then, but we'll see about that. In the meantime, you can follow me at Dutch Movie Guy on Twitter, Kees Cornelissen on Facebook and Letterboxd, and I think that's about it. And I think that's about all I can plug. So up until our next Shimona reaction or whatever kind of video, of course, Viva la Resistance.
And may the force be with you always.
Yeah!
Yeah!